Tom?
Yeah, Andrea, U.S. intelligence sources are telling NBC News that the U.S. intelligence community now has confirmation that this plane with 176 people on board was in fact brought down by Iranian missiles, likely fired by mistake, as, of course, Iran had just fired those missiles at U.S. bases in Iraq, and many on the ground in Iran were fearing U.S. reprisal attacks. This happened at about 6:14 in the morning, you may recall, when this Ukrainian jetliner took off from Tehran 2 minutes into flight at just 7,900 feet. Suddenly, it lost all comms, all GPS tracking, all data, everything on that plane suddenly went black, and video from the ground shows a fireball streaking across the sky as it then plummeted to Earth. Everybody on board killed. Again, U.S. intelligence suggesting that spy satellites have now confirmed that, in fact, the plane was brought down by Ukraine, make that Iranian-based missiles. It was a Ukrainian airliner with 176 people on board. By the way, Iran thus far has denied that missiles brought down the plane. They've suggested some sort of a mechanical error is to blame. But the Ukrainians, for their part, and that's, again, one of their planes, Ukraine has all along been concerned about a possible missile strike just based on the timing alone. It's just seemed highly unlikely you would have a random plane crash hours after you had a major missile strike launched from Iran. And now U.S. intelligence suggesting and confirming that, in fact, Iranian missiles brought down this passenger plane with 176 people on board.
Tom, just to reprise this, you've been raising questions about this since the moment it happened. It happened within an hour or so of those missile strikes against the Iraqi targets from Iran.
Yeah.
This is a 3-year-old 737, a relatively young plane. It had been inspected 2 days earlier, and among those victims were a number of Canadians, and among those Canadians were foreign students, Iranians who had been home for the holidays. So there were a lot, well, there were infants and toddlers as well, but there were a lot of young people as well on that plane.
It was a plane made up almost entirely of Iranians, of Ukrainians, and 63 Canadians. 63, many of them from Edmonton, and many of them some connection to the University of Alberta. Many of them had been at a wedding in Iran and were going back to Canada after having been at a wedding. You know, all along, I got to tell you, from the moment this happened, my aviation sources were saying all the evidence here would suggest that this, in fact, was some sort of a missile or some sort of a bomb. And then as the hours progressed, the evidence continued to mount for the aviation sources that this was a missile. And now U.S. intelligence sources saying, in fact, it does appear to have been a missile that brought it down. And the irony here, of course, is that Iran fired the missiles, didn't hit any Americans, didn't cause any casualties in Iraq when they fired those missiles at U.S. bases. And yet, through an unbelievable tragedy and a miscalculation, 176 people, many of them Iranians, were brought down by one of Iran's own missiles.
And just to also add another detail, Iran has refused to hand over the black box.
That's changed a bit.
Oh, okay.
That's changed a bit, yeah. Iran's language has changed on how much it will cooperate with international investigators. Today, it's been a little confusing as to whether they are going to release the black boxes and to whom, but it does now appear that they're going to provide international investigators access to the black boxes. Even some suggestion that they might allow the NTSB in on the investigation. Boeing may or may not be. It, of course, made the plane, but under U.S. sanctions, Boeing may not be allowed to even set foot in Iran. But Iran's language on how much it will cooperate with international investigators has changed slightly today.
And, of course, those sanctions can be waived for the purpose of this investigation by both countries, because Iran is part of that international agreement, the longstanding agreement for investigating these kinds of, well, any kind of crash.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.